All right, guys, we are going to be reacting Germany's work-life balance myth, what they don't show you. Okay, very interesting. We're just going to react to this very, openly, open mind. I don't know what he's going to say. By the way, this guy, YouTube channel, when it comes down to Germany as a foreigner, right in the money. Let's see what's going on, guys.
So Germany is often painted as this work-life balance utopia. You know, everyone gets 6 weeks of paid holiday, workplaces are efficient and secure, job security is guaranteed, Germans separate work and private life religiously. Have you heard any of these rattled off as if they were facts before? It's a tempting picture, and one that makes especially American workers envious. But how much of this is really true? And is Germany really a paradise of leisure and stability? Or is this reputation hiding more complicated reality? Okay, so to answer this question, there is quite a bit of research that you can analyze if you want to. You know, there's a lot of facts and figures, but these really just are based on averages across industries, and they don't take in variability into account. And, you know, in my experience, where you live and who you work with really make the difference. And obviously that doesn't come into the data because it's highly subjective. And so in this video, I want to share some of my own personal subjective experience of the German workforce. For context, I live in Frankfurt am Main, and most of my working life has been in the luxury retail space, working for companies like Burberry, Cartier, and the like. And I also did a stint in a creative agency, and now I work in retail investment. So feel free to do your own research to get
He looked like a guy that will work in investments.
take of what it's like, but let's get into it.
Germans don't
So
work long
one thing
hours.
that is always mentioned when talking about this is that Germans don't work long hours. Germans are highly efficient, meaning that they work a lot less than most other people. The OECD ranks Germany among the lowest in annual working hours, around 1,340 per worker per year. This was in 2022. And compared to the US average, which is 1,811 hours, it seems like a lot less. But the gap comes down to productivity and structure. Germany's economy is heavily industrial, where output per hour is among the highest in the OECD. But again, these averages kind of mask variations. So on paper, German law is extremely strict. The Arbeitsgesetz stipulates that you can't work more than 10 hours a day. You have to take a break after working 6 hours, and employers must guarantee at least 11 hours of rest between shifts. But in practice, these limits blur very quickly. In a previous job, I was promoted into management.
Interesting.
I got
Interesting that he's saying that. Again, this is. I'm sorry, guys, but when it comes down to Americans going to Germany and they putting a picture of the country, I tend not to really trust him. You see what I'm saying? I tend not to really trust him. So I'm glad that he just giving some feedback on this.
raise, I didn't get overtime anymore. And so meaning that although I was getting paid more than my employees on a monthly basis, if you actually calculated the hourly wage, I was getting paid the same, or actually sometimes even less than them.
Wow.
Just because of the horrendous overtime. And people will say that was bad time management on my part. But it really is industry specific, and it depends on the culture of the company and what management is demanding of you. And if your work centers around clients and events and store openings, times and all that kind of stuff, then there's really only so much you can do. And the company knew this, so yeah, I take full responsibility for this, which is why I don't work there anymore. Also in media and marketing, these kind of industries, it's very similar to basically any other country. You might have an official work contract that states that you work 37 hours a week or 40 hours a week.
And they sort of like...
In practice, people in these industries, they just live through cycles of, you know, crunch time and collapse, or maybe just like constant collapse. It's just all the blur of like events and client meetings. You know, there's a real gray area of what is considered work time and what's not. Like you kind of
What
have
do you
to
mean?
go
What?
to events.
Hold on. What do you
industry.
mean? What do you mean there's a gray area when it comes down to working? That's kind of strange. Like, that makes no sense, guys. There should be no gray area. whether or not you're working. That's kind of strange.
These are often not included as work time, even though you might be going to like two or three events per week, which you have to do the networking, to meet the people, to get the clients. I would also say that all of my managers who I have had in multiple companies have all been what I would call workaholics, as in they did not care about work-life balance at all. I had one manager who did very, very strictly separate work and private life, but she was also obsessed with work and would get there like 2 hours before everyone else. So she was working basically 10 to 12 hours a day, basically because she wanted to, or maybe because she felt she had to. And then the other managers that I've had,
Which is
there was no separation whatsoever.
Which is there's nothing wrong with that, right? There's if you want to work all those hey, you want to work all those hours, hey, good for you.
Like private clients were also kind of friends or
Yeah.
acquaintances. You know, they would go on trips together, like go on holiday together, go to events. It was just all kind of like life. You know, there was no separation to it. And so, although this is purely anecdotal, it would be wrong to think of Germans clocking off at 5 p.m. on a Friday or only working 4 days a week. Certain industries demand a lot. Having strict labor laws does help in theory, but if you are the kind of person who is drawn to, let's say, medicine or tech or finance or real estate or marketing and PR or basically a lot of industries, there are many gray areas, and especially things which are like system relevant, you know, hospitals and care facilities. People there work ungodly hours, like 24-hour shifts, and yes, okay, they might be able to then take 3 days off, but it's not work-life balance in the way that people think of it. And so, yes, Germans do work fewer annual hours.
So what does he means when they say that it's not what people think of German work-life balance? Are they only thinking about, oh, I just work only these hours and then I have 6 weeks of just free time to not do anything? I can simply say that I'm just sick and I'm not, they're gonna simply excuse me from working that day. And this is where it comes down. I'm glad that he's talking about this because a lot of people here in the United States, they just put the picture that Germans are basically lazy. They basically lazy, and which is not true. Knowing a lot about German culture, it doesn't make sense, right? To think like that about Germans.
On average than Americans, but averages are very misleading and they reflect a highly productive economy in which certain sectors, especially manufacturing, generate immense value per hour.
Interesting.
But they don't capture, you know, the hospital nurse who hasn't seen a proper weekend for 3 months, or the junior marketing manager who's pulling, an all-nighter trying to get the campaign launch right. So the myth of universal leisure falls apart when you see the stratification. You've got secure unionized roles, which do benefit from legal protections, but there's whole swathes of the workforce that live outside of them. And so Germany is not really a place without long hours. It's a place where some people are shielded from them and others are swallowed by them.
Wow, interesting.
Myth number 2 is that everyone gets 6 weeks of paid vacation.
Here we go.
So
Here we go.
Is Germany at the top.
Here we go. This is very interesting. Listen, guys, I really don't like to just think about Americans when it comes down to stuff like this, to just basically, how can I say this? Put Germans as lazy. The reason I say this is because by saying that you guys don't work, you guys only have 6 weeks, and you guys can take free and they pay you everything, it's not a good impression. And I think that Americans sometimes, they just, when it comes down to stuff like this, they're not clear. They're not clear.
Top of everyone's list.
And I'm glad that he just basically just clearing up some of these myths.
Work-life balance in Germany, and it's a stat that makes, I would say, particularly American workers sigh with envy, imagining Germans vanishing off to Mallorca every summer. So is this really true?
Yeah.
Well, again, up to a point. German labor law does guarantee paid time off, but the myth really inflates it into something universal and absolute, which it is not. So by law, employers working a 5-day week are entitled to 20 days paid leave. In practice, collective agreements and company contracts usually raise this to 25 or 30 days per year. And when you add in Germany's 9 to 13 public holidays, depending on which state you're in, many full-time employees do approach this 6-week figure.
Ah.
But here is where the picture fractures. As I mentioned, as I alluded to in the previous point, around 7.5 million people in Germany are in mini jobs, which is like marginal employment, where you can only earn up to 520 euros per month. And now on paper, these jobs do include the right to holiday pay, but in reality, enforcement is weak. And then there are also many workers in Zeitarbeit or like temporary agency work, and the gig economy and freelancers, where these kind of benefits.
Yo, if it is 20, man, if it is 20 days, that's not good, man. Because actually, in the United States, it's between 15 to 20 days a year when it comes down to, vacation. And that's not even including the holidays, the federal holidays and stuff like that, that can just be up to another week, right? So probably almost up to 20. Well, in that case, it will be like almost 32 days in a year. You see what I'm saying? So they're giving you 32 days in a year. I was expecting a little bit more on Germany. 20 days doesn't seem like a lot of days. But usually in the United States between 15 to 20. And if you work for the federal government or you work as a teacher, of course you get more of those, right? You can get the entire summer, which is like 3 months, and then you get the Christmas as well, so there's another month. So that's 4 months, and plus you get vacations as well on top of that, and the federal holiday. So that in itself is just a regular employee of a private company, you get between 15 to 20 days plus holidays. Like he said, you can bump it up to almost 32, between 30 to 32 uh I say days of vacation, I guess.
Really apply. And so even among permanent staff,
I have to just really
benefit and the gig economy and freelancers, where
just let me know in the comment section below if my math is off. Do you really get 6 week vacation, meaning one after the other, like 6 weeks? Like, I just want to take a vacation. I have 6 weeks to take that vacation. Let me know in the comment section below.
Kind of benefits don't really apply. And so even among permanent staff in big companies, the picture varies a lot by sector. So, for bankers in Frankfurt, they can plan their holidays like a year in advance. But if you're working in retail or hospitality or healthcare, then your holidays may be whittled down, they may be rescheduled or cancelled because of staffing levels or burnout or some sort of crisis.
Wow.
People often have to roll their holiday over to the next year, or sometimes people just take it as pay because it's just like not possible in any other
Really?
way. So the problem with this myth of universal 6 weeks holidays is that it's built on the most privileged tier of the German workforce, those on stable, full-time unionized contracts, or like very big, huge companies that offer a lot of employee benefits. And yes, for them, the system does deliver enviable time off, but then there is the other Germany, the temp worker, the freelancer, the gig worker. And for many people coming to Germany, unfortunately, if you don't have a job set up already, you will probably go into this economy, into that system. So I just want to make you, just want to prepare you for that,
Okay.
It might be quite a different reality from what you've expected, because that reality is very, very much closer to the American reality of like holidays being an absolute luxury, not a guarantee.
Man,
So
I want you guys to let me know in the comment section below how truthful that is. Just let me know in the comment section below, okay?
Myth number 3, job security for life. So another persistent belief is that Germany guarantees lifelong job security compared to the US, where, at-will employment makes dismissal possible almost overnight. The German system does look ironclad. As I've said, there are very strong labor laws, strict rules of termination, and the institution of things like the Betriebsrat, Works Council. This all reinforces the image of security. Now, There are pros and cons to all of this. In my previous job, the company had a works council, and I will never ever work with a company that has a works council again. No, thank you, hard pass. So, in their efforts to try and justify their existence and protect employees, they made it very difficult to work. So, because basically the problem was that the work contracts, there were a lot of older workers at that company who
Mm-hmm.
had old work contracts that did not match the market demands. So the company was very successful. We had way too much interest, way too much demand that we couldn't supply. But because of the Works Council, when people reached a certain amount of hours, we had to send them home. They were not allowed
Wow.
to work, even though they wanted to. So this just created a
Wow.
dire situation where everyone was totally stressed, burned out, and unhappy. This, I think, is probably an extreme example. I don't think this is the norm. The company was pretty dysfunctional. The problem with this stereotype is that it doesn't allow for the actual reality, which is there is quite a hard split in the German labor market. There is what the stereotype basically pervades, there is that side of the economy, but then there is like a whole subset of the German economy which is not protected by all of these supposed like ironclad employment laws. And so in the sort of ironclad typical stereotype of the German labor market, employers need specific legal grounds to dismiss permanent employees. And court cases often end with settlements that heavily favor workers. So
Mm.
in the first job that I had here, we actually had an employee who was stealing from the company. We literally had this on camera, like it was unequivocal. And even with that, there was a huge battle with the HR department to try and get this person fired. Like it was not an easy process. But
Wow.
I think this kind of thing is becoming less common. So collective bargaining
And that's what
coverage is
happened.
shrinking. In 96, around
What happened is that they start, basically these companies, they start getting tight and tight and tight and tight to get to a point that they stop hiring like regular folks. Now they start hiring like people that are, basically more than prepared to take the jobs because of attitudes like this.
70% of German employees were covered by collective agreements. By 2022, that dropped to 51% in the West and 43% in the East of
Wow.
Germany. And so millions of people now work outside these agreements that guarantee pay, the pay scales, notice periods, and dismissal protections. But just to be clear, your job contract depends largely on the hiring manager. So the first position I got here in Germany was I was immediately offered an unlimited contract. For the second role, I was headhunted, and so I could, get a say in my own terms. But this is really not the norm. It's not really very common, I don't think, at least. Even in large companies, you will usually be offered a limited contract, usually maybe 1 year, with the possibility to extend or make it permanent if you are a good fit. And so this is really a way for the company to extend the probationary period, because I think what companies are realizing, because Germany's labor market has sort of opened up, it becomes very expensive to hire people, and you just can't offer them the security right away because you don't know if they are going to be a good fit, or if
Yeah, I told you.
you have to test it out first. The myth of absolute job security is really the story of a shrinking core workforce. And so there's this like shadow economy of temporary, part-time, and gig work that surrounds this core like secure work. And if I'm honest, the idea of jobs for life was never sustainable anyway, like in the first place. It was just built on post-war prosperity,
Yep.
and it's not something that is available to the young today.
Yeah, those kind of jobs with good pays, over. They don't exist anymore. They do not exist anymore. And the problem is since when women enter the workforce, and I'm not, this is not being anti whatever, right? And this is just being honest. When females entered the workforce, what they did basically was to double the workforce for less money. See? So now you have two people where one salary will cover the entire family. Now you have that salary divided on two, so you have more workforce, more people entering the workforce, and of course, more people entering the workforce. I mean that the salaries go down, right? They get suppressed. It's like illegal immigrants where they come to your country is with well the salaries, right? They get suppressed while the expenses and the cost of living goes higher because people are paying for very low skilled workers. It's something very similar to that regard. So what happened is there's money is moving around, but it's just divided into multiple folks. So we have too many people working in the workforce, and a lot of these companies they cannot keep up with the inflation. So now they just have to rely on third world, low skilled workers to keep up with their demand, whatever. In the end, it's gonna all blow up. You ask me.
Myth number 4: the gig economy is an American problem. There is this idea that Germany is all about safety and security and social benefits, and like it's a social market system, and there's all the support and structure and stuff, which I've already gone into. But it might surprise a lot of people to realize that not just Germany, but the EU in general, there is a growing gig economy here. It's
You have to,
growing
man.
quite fast. It's estimated that across the EU, 28 million people are engaged in platform work. This was from 2021,
Yeah.
and the number is expected to reach 43 million by the end of 2025. And Germany plays a major part of this trend. It's estimated that around 3 million Germans earn money through digital platforms, whether it's driving for Uber, delivering for Lieferando, or freelancing online. Although, to be quite honest, I would actually count as one of those people because I do make money from platforms online, but I also have a full-time job. So again, be wary of these stats, but I think it is fair to say that there is definitely a growing gig economy. It doesn't look like it's
Yeah, you have to put money in that pot. Yeah, it's true. You have to. So I wouldn't be surprised. Because it's interesting as well, since here's what I'm thinking. And this is funny because when it comes down to Germany and the United States, you guys' inflation is very low compared to us. So your cost of even fruits and vegetables and food is very low. But at the same time, things are getting expensive here, and you guys rely on China as well. So it's gonna be and then you guys don't create your own currency, so you cannot manipulate some of your currency. It's a very difficult situation.
down or getting any smaller at the moment. The problem is that the very things that make gig work attractive to employers, like flexibility, low cost, minimal obligations, also places these workers outside of Germany's famous protection. The safeguards that define the German model simply just don't reach them. And it isn't just about apps or like the new digital economy. Gig-like arrangements exist also in more traditional industries too, like this Scheinselbstständigkeit, which, I don't know, you could say something like bogus self-employment. It's a recurring issue in construction, in logistics, in creative industries, like I said before, marketing and PR and that kind of stuff. These workers are treated as freelancers on paper, but they function more as employees in practice. They're stripped of all rights while still carrying a lot of responsibility. And, because I did an internship at a creative agency for around 6 months, and there were people coming and going all the time. It really felt more like a youth hostel than a place of work, and was just like the antithesis of this stereotypical German workplace. So the contradiction really is sharp. Germany's labor laws are designed to prevent exactly this kind of exploitation, yet the parallel economy thrives anyway, in part because enforcement is weak and because the demand for cheap, flexible labor keeps rising. But also, if I'm honest,
that's exactly what I mentioned.
Work-life balance stereotype.
Yeah, that's what I mentioned. What happened is they don't want to pay the Germans like they should. Therefore, they want to just now get all these people from the third world, which is low skilled workers, and pay them like almost double less. So let's say you're getting paid €20 per hour. They can get 2 or 3 those low skilled workers €8 per hour easily. Nobody can say anything because they need that economy to keep rising. It's sad, man. It's sad. It's not. It's not a German thing. It happens in all the Western world.
is
The
born
worst cases are United Kingdom and Canada. They're the worst cases. They're gonna get replaced either way. It's either way. So
out of a bygone era. It's just that is not the reality. That's not where we are now. It's just not possible to fund this anymore. This is a relic of Jobs for Life, where there was a whole totally different cultural setup.
Mm-hmm.
You know, employees didn't just get a salary. They didn't just get paid by their work. They had their whole social network through their job, their healthcare, their housing, subsidies here, discounts there. It was like a whole kind of social fabric. Essentially, their life was taken care of by the company. And, you know, I still know people, I know people in their 60s, for example, who work for Deutsche Bahn. And part of the deal that they got was incredibly cheap housing. So the job they do is not like an executive level job. It's fairly like average. You know, the pay is average. But as part of their deal, they get housing, basically for free. And so when housing is one of your biggest expenses, this is huge. This is like massive. You know, if you only have to pay a couple of €100 rent per month, this is like huge. And again, it's not like a luxury apartment, but it's still like standard, basic. It's a roof over your head. It does the job, and it makes a massive difference. My experience of the German work-life balance myth is that it is not built into the system. It is not passive. It is not a given. Like if you want it, you can get it, but you have to pursue it intentionally. And by doing that, it means you have to give up other things as well. It's a trade-off. Basically, the myth then isn't really that Germany has balance, is that everyone shares in it. And again, this is all relative. Coming from other Western European countries, the German workplace is not necessarily particularly attractive. Maybe from a US perspective, it seems more balanced, but it all depends on, you know, where you end up and what your own perspective is and where you're coming from. So I'd love to hear from you. What has your experience been of the German workplace? Do you think there is a generational divide? Do you think that it's getting harder or easier to find work? Let me know in the comments below. If I made any egregious errors, please feel free to correct me in the comments.
Well, here's the thing, though. I think, yeah, sadly, that's the. I don't know, man. This is a problem that the Western world had to deal with, and I think it happened since we started relying with China and bringing a lot of low skilled workers, and people just it's just all a mess, man. Especially here in the United States, it's just all a mess. God, you guys are not the only ones. Don't worry about it. It's all a mess. It's all a mess. It's sad, man. It's very sad. Since has anything to say beside that?
Below. Other than that, take care.
Yeah, nothing to say after that. Yeah, it's all sad, man. Let me see what people say about this. Worked in middle management in a large corporation in Germany. My minimum working days was 10 hours and then often longer with customers in the evening. Because of the law, it was not uncommon to check out and go back to your desk to continue working if that we could not do the stuff at home. There were many benefits, a very good salary, day off, lieu, and 6 weeks annual holiday. With national holidays, I got nearly 10 weeks. Damn, that's a lot. When you work in Germany, you really have to work hard. So that's the thing, yeah. You have to work very hard. So they get more. I am a native German. I had all kind of jobs with more or less holidays, with a lot of the stress, and with no stress at all. It really depends on the industry and structure of the company and the role you're working in. You want fair working conditions, look for a larger, publicly owned company that have a region focus and avoid management position. Thank you very much for this clarification. It all depends in the industry. Okay. Let's see. Okay, my wife is a nurse in Germany. She works insane hours and often covers two shifts. I have an employer, major German industry company. I worked 50 hours per week. My bosses didn't care that is illegal and it was common practice. On top of that, productivity there was a nightmare. I started at 6 a.m. and due to bad management, the material only showed up around noon. So this was compensated by working until at least 5 p.m. But don't you dare suggest starting later because then you're not a team player. Hey, I don't know, man. I think personally we need to do something about this. Hopefully, right. In case of Germany, they don't lose. Those I think those are very good, right? 10 weeks of vacation, I think that's great, man. Yeah, that's great. The last company I used to work, man, these people were almost dead, man. They have like so many eye bags, man. One lady had like 3 eye bags and each eye. It was crazy. And when I saw that, I'm like, this is not for me. This is not for me. I'm not gonna do this. I'm not gonna have 15 eye bags in each eyes. But it's still Germany's trying to protect their workers. But let me know what you guys think, guys. I will see you next one. I'm out.